Now is the time to build strong institutional and national partnerships, build interdependent relationships amongst our institutions to confront transnational crime. None of us is safe because the transnational nature of the crimes that we are dealing with are such that unless we work together, unless we collaborate, unless we support each other, we will not succeed. We may succeed to do a good job as Kenya or as Uganda or as Tanzania, but that's only for a moment, because soon enough, when it happens next door, it will finally also affect us one way or the other. Some of the criminals we deal with locate in countries or in regions not very far away from here, and they are able to disturb us and stress us. So the deployment of resources, ladies and gentlemen, I think is critical. It's now time for our regional organizations to think about spending resources in an integrated way to deal with crime. I want to call upon the East African community and this association to look at ways of putting together resources we can spend across borders. It's not enough to have budgets in Tanzania or budget in Kenya or budget in Uganda. We should look at how our organizations within the region can put resources we can spend together regionally. About the level of deployment we do in terms of resources to prosecution organizations in our countries. I don't know whether other countries in the region are better resourced or more resourced than our region, than our country. But I know that prosecution agencies are some of those agencies that have been either neglected or sometimes poorly funded in the past. Time is here for us, and I'm calling upon governments in the region to think about putting more resources in prosecution institutions to strengthen them and to ensure that they can do their work effectively. On our part, as government, we have been supporting the independent office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and I think and hope DPP that we will be the first country within the region to come up with a fully fledged independent training institute for prosecutors. 3, I want to urge that we collaborate in research and we connect resource sites. Again, when we are poorly staffed and poorly resourced, the first challenge is to build the capacities of the organizations that we lead. Since we are so endowed within the East African region to have so many higher education institutions, I would like to plead that we do everything we can to build relationships between prosecution organizations and various resource sites. Let's take advantage of the crime research units in our various countries, the crime research laboratories in our various jurisdictions, such as we have tried to do in Kenya to bring together the Crime Research Center and the government chemist to back up the work of the ODPP. And I urge that we do the best we can to support prosecution institutions. Fourthly, DPP, I would like to urge that as governments, we develop very strong political will to support prosecution institutions. Let's face it, the reason why many prosecution institutions are always starved of resources, or the reason why many prosecution institutions are weakened, is because there is no political will to support them. Because prosecutors are oftentimes perceived as probably the enemy around the block. I noticed, and I'm just saying this tongue-in-cheek, when we had a national celebration the other day at State House, I don't know whether some of you noticed this. During lunch hour, the table that the DPP and the DCI sat was empty. No one wanted to go and sit at that table. Are just sitting on that table on their own. The big people in government who talk about money and budgets didn't want to go and sit near that table. I don't know why. I guess, AG, you probably know. But anyway, I think it will be important as we go forward to support prosecution institutions by developing and giving the sufficient political will to back the work they do. We are going nowhere, and that's the truth of the matter, in fighting transnational crime, in fighting corruption, with weak prosecution institutions in our countries. So time is here for us to invest in these resources. Lastly, I would like to urge that we develop the capacities of our institutions, not just through training, but as I said, by looking at resource relationships between our local institutions and international organizations. It's very good that we are receiving support from some development partners, but I would like to say this, my brother Adan Mohammed, I would like a situation where within East Africa, we are able to fund some of our organizations. We don't have to be dependent on others to fund organizations that do important activities such as prosecution institutions. We should be able to fund our organizations, and we have sufficient resources to fund our organizations.
Tackling this problem on both sides is very critical. I think a lot of effort and emphasis has been paid in the past on dealing with the organized crime without having to deal with the illicit markets and the demands that are created, partly because more often than not some of these demands are outside of the scope that we have. But it is important to appreciate that the existence of locally based and foreign criminal organizations across our countries is something that is recognized very seriously. Issues around movement of people, trafficking human, whether it is for sex-related issues arising from Eastern Europe to some of the Western European countries, or the migration of people from Africa to Europe on dealing with issues of migration to look for better opportunities, have seen significant number of deaths on the continent. Issues of environmental crime related to wildlife-related activities where African countries are becoming the place where crimes are committed, but demands are created in some of the Asian countries. EAC partner states have also committed to combat drug trafficking in the region through adoption of protocol on combating drug trafficking in the East Africa region.
We rededicate ourselves to building a stronger, united criminal justice system where all citizens of East Africa and our friends from across the region enjoy the shelter of impartial rule of law and the shared progress that comes with it. As we gather here today, these ideals and aspirations we share as a region face an increased threat. The rise of transnational organized crime, deterring, disrupting, and dismantling transnational organized crime is a vision that has brought us here, and it is a mission that binds us together. East Africa and our region continues to grow more interconnected, and cross-border threats originating from organized criminal groupings that have well-established networks, who have no boundaries in their scope and mode of operations continue to rise. Modern technology, while a great enabler to economic growth and progress, has widened the circle of opportunity for these criminal elements and enhanced the complex nature of transnational crimes. Organized criminal groups often exploit legitimate activities to advance their agenda through illicit trade, maritime crimes, waste dumping, trafficking of drugs, firearms, wildlife trophies, graft, and human trafficking. Transnational organized crimes have also increasingly involved economic crimes such as money laundering and cyber crimes, involving use of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Litecoin, among other e-currencies. In recent times, we have prosecuted some of these crimes, and the evidence presented shows that no nation can isolate itself. These threats are able to spread across our borders in an instant. It is against this context that we now understand that our individual countries' security, economic progress, political stability, and cultural advancement must be increasingly anchored in regional cooperation. We have strived to ensure effective measures and actions are undertaken for the prevention, detection, investigation, and prosecution of crime in the region. We have cooperated on matters of mutual legal assistance, exchange of convicted prisoners, extradition. We have crafted information sharing agreements, cooperated in the investigation and prosecution of crimes, and coordinated in asset forfeiture and recoveries of instrumentalities and proceeds of crime. I would like to urge us as African countries to seek to invest more resources in research, innovation, and capacity building. It is common to have donors support us in the capacity building initiatives that we have, and we thank them, but we cannot fully meet our human resource skills needs from partners. Rather, we can, as a matter of priority, seek to create a common financial resource and institutional pool, fully funded by EAAP members to meet, train, and equip our teams.
Measures have been initiated and will continue to be perfected that require fewer restrictions and less scrutiny where citizens within these countries are traveling from one member state to the other. And at the same time, organized crime syndicates are looking to exploit the relaxed borders and crossing points and to extend their reach across the region and beyond. And that certainly cannot be the intended outcome of our various governments and peoples. As our respective security organs liaise to build capacity in intelligence gathering, surveillance, conduct of investigations, as well as asset tracing and recovery, it is paramount that other players in the criminal justice system work together to facilitate prosecution and enhance conviction rates of persons who would like to take advantage of the free movement of goods and people within the territories. And as prosecutors, you have a duty to your respective nations and to society to discharge your mandate without fear or favor. Whether a criminal offense is committed by a person of limited material means or by wealthy and powerful persons, as is very often the case. So you as prosecutors must be pillars to fight against corruption and deliver for the people who have bestowed that great privilege upon you to work for their betterment.
Okay, but you can actually, you can put on something on your ears.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Mahbub Maalim, the Executive Secretary of IGAD. Thank you.
My name is George Kinoti, the DC.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, my name is Jennifer Berner. I'm a prosecutor from Scotland here with the British High Commission in Kenya.
From Office of the President, Kenya.
Public Prosecutions, Kenya.
Good morning. My name
Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Kenya.
Morning, Victor Mule, Office of the Director.
Yes, okay. All right. 10 countries represented here. If I'm not accurate like this, know that it is always one of those times.
Plan to avoid arrest before prosecution in the event of arrest. Find the best lawyers out there.
Distinguish between these offenses. They're actually interrelated. They fund each other. Human trafficking funds.
Offense in one division, the other should take charge and make sure that.
Across the borders.
I think we are on the right track. When you see those, let's say,
wildlife crimes, illicit finance, terrorism, just to name a few transnational relations.
As a way forward, I think it will help us as, let's say, the whole region